celebrate it because they created chaos, they created evil,
order.
they generated
created chaos.
millions of beings
Order.
suffered simply for being born in another place, simply for wanting to live the physical experience of this beautiful horizontal universe. It is a unique moment that we must take advantage of, but we must not go crazy. If everything goes as we think, the greatest enemy of humanity can disappear forever and be buried simply in an absolutely tragic past, which will be remembered forever to know which path we should take. Although in every world we have entered, in every story I have been told, in every corner of these 178 worlds, I see some hope that goodness is there. It is incomparable with the infinite spiritual potential that we all carry inside. I am sure that we will change all this to free the new humanity and avoid a new reset. I see
This is
difficult
important
times ahead,
information.
but also times of glory. Chapter 27, The Difficult Moment. Author's Notes. I had returned to the south. It's hard to get away from that place you never wanted to leave. As scary and dangerous as
We are
that
stuck
last
here
visit
in
may
this
have sounded back in the day,
circle
it was
environment,
worth what it
known
felt like to be here.
lands.
It was
Earth.
something totally different.
They're lying to
Far
us.
away, even the coldest breeze reminds you that for some strange reason,
This is the
the
fourth
place
book.
where you were born and grow up sometimes is not where you belong. I was on a boat sailing in the south, and there were other people. At one point, we coincided just in the passage because it was a very narrow place, and he commented to me quietly, "Do not even dream of going to Antarctica. I imagine that you have already
Three books.
started it." And then he disappeared into the crowd. I was
And
again
this is the
stunned,
fourth.
but events like these were already beginning
By
to
sound.
happen to me in a
They
row.
read it to you.
In addition to these symptoms that I hadn't had before, things were getting pretty tense about my life.
They lie to
And
you.
if
They
one
poison
looks
you.
back on it, it's totally understandable. What is laid out in these books can be reason enough for a lot of anger for some. As I waited for some sign from Helen or Butler, I knew that the future was going to be a little more uncertain every day. Anyway, I was looking forward to finding out how that whole
And
trip
they
had gone.
penetrated the
What
dome, the
information we could gather from the other worlds and other
great
domes.
dome.
When things are
the
not going
Custodians.
very well, or something
And
feels
with
very
the Anunnaki,
the best thing
they
to do is to
they
get back in
fought.
touch with nature. The trees,
And they
the
started
sunrises,
bullying other
sunsets.
races.
In moments of
outside
darkness, it is very difficult to know how to heal your own
This
mind.
dome.
How to get away from images or
This
from
dome.
believing that you are who others think you are.
The Custodians and the
All of this
Anunnaki.
I owe to
They're
the
continuing
ancestors without a
fucking
doubt.
other races,
A long
destroying
time
other
later,
worlds.
things were starting to normalize.
enslaving
About 7
enslaving
months
them.
later,
They're the
I was in my
colonizing
home office,
parasitic
cleaning and moving
races.
papers that had been there
This
for
is
a
something
long
that
time.
world has to know.
It was something I had to do.
And they are making you sick, like me now,
That Sunday morning,
for no reason,
July 16th,
by design, for
approximately
they say you live
9:30
here,
a.m.,
the known lands, in the center of the
and I jumped
universe.
up
This is the
while I was
universe.
cleaning the white furniture full of dust that was gathered there. I first thought it would be the mailman, but the Sunday, it was not at all common in this area. When I went out to answer it, there was a person with a dark-colored cap, and looking down, he asked me, "Are you Claudio Nocelli?" "That's right. I have a package
Was
for
the
you."
one who wrote the books,
A
the
package.
author.
In this office,
Claudio
only
Nocelli.
1 or 2 people knew their address, and only utility or
This
tax
is so
bills
important.
arrived. Anyway, I was overcome with intrigue, and obviously I signed. This person, without looking at me, handed me the said box, and walked out of there almost shocked without even greeting me. I quickly went upstairs, almost taking everything in front of me, and really surprised of what this box could contain. As soon as I entered, I threw everything that was on the table and gave it the place that corresponded to the box. I opened it very carefully, and there was what my heart somehow knew, but that my mind did not want to recognize. All the information that Helen and the ancestors were collecting was there, at least a large part of it dumped on many sheets of paper. Maps and texts, information from other worlds and other domes. Clearly, there was an indicative, and not everything was for publication, not at the moment. But I said at last I have something tangible that I can keep and reread whenever I want. Not a single line was wasted. I took the first page and began to read it. The letters of the same took a certain blue color against the light. As I was reading, the words were being erased. And you, as a reader right now, will say exactly what I exclaimed at that moment, and even jumped out of my chair. What? I stood up without being able to understand it. Each word read was being erased in its path, leaving simply blank pages with that characteristic ancestral aroma.
But how?
I got the impression, also, as a security method that could be added by the Cassiopeans, that the sheets were addressed to a certain iris coding, and that if anyone else took this information before me, although they sent a person directly to them to deliver it, I would only have found a bunch of blank sheets. But all this I am assuming. Note, I tried everything. The photographs came out simply as blank sheets, and nothing I tried worked to generate any copies. Anyway, with everything that had been happening to me, I think keeping copies of something like this would be counterproductive, especially since the Cassiopeans and Ancestrals clearly didn't want to leave traces. The same happened with the images that passed at an incredible speed, as if they were an electronic device, but inside an ordinary sheet of paper. And at the same time, each one of them contained texts also diminished. I already had some experience, and I knew a little about the ancestors. I ran to get my notebook and start typing and recreating sketches of what my eyes or my mind were retaining before it was too late. The database of the Great Ancestral Library. The detail of the other worlds. Known lands, Earth. Coding R201. Lands within its first dome. They are divided in continents and several islands around. But in its center, it has very important islands called Hyperborea that connect by means of a portal with the lands outside called Asgard. It is not known if it is still in operation
Asgard.
today. Lands inside the second dome. Lands differentiated one from the other, Laurentia. Asgard, hit together with Yggdrasil, Aquarius, HYKSOS, Scorpio, Potassium iodide lands, or lands of the Anicum, the ancestral lands, or ancestral lands, the ancient lands of Anak and Lemuria. Then on the outside we find GIGES, Anax, Avalon, Deathlands, the Inner Door, Shasta, Atlantis, Mermaid Lands, Island of the Death, Argos, ATOS,
Mermaid
Talos.
lands.
Three connecting bridges between
So
the
much
second dome and the
information
third
that
wall.
humanity doesn't know. It's
It's
being kept from you, from us.
and Hades. Heimdall connects
Oh my
with
God.
the way of those
They're living a
who
lie.
never rest. Atragotus connects with the way of the footprints of the giants. This part connects with the abduction zone, since it is a very
And the Greys are
dangerous
working
zone
with
for
Extadians
navigation and
if they want to.
overflight.
The aliens,
There
the
are
Greys,
countless cases of attacks and abductions.
when they abduct you, it's
and
them.
other giant beings. And finally,
They also have
which
their own
connects
circle
with
environment.
the way of the eternal
Greys.
fire. There are several passages
And they are here,
that
in the
interconnect
center,
different
the
memory
known lands.
barriers of the different
And
circle
underground.
environments or environments. In the first ice walls, we can find the Morris, Hurank, and Diatlon the second ice walls, we find the portal membrane and Bifrost to the north. In the third walls, we find a passage that connects directly to another world called Lands of Mars, as is the famous Bird Passage. Also, the Pharaoh's Peaks that connect back to the free lands of Osiris, and the HII portal that connects to the Pleiades. The
Pleiades.
northern part of the Grey
Looks
Mountains
looks like us, only pointed ears
the lands of Venus.
and very beautiful
Some
eyes.
are beings with infinite
They're
spiritual
good.
potential. They are the direct
We all want
link
also to liberate
as they
humanity from
connected
the
in their
Castilian
interior
race, the
with
parasitic
celestial
race.
lands. Their creation is attributed to the masters who came to save the Great Dome and the secrets that lie behind it so that it does not fall into the parasitic hands of the dirty colonizers. Those names of the masters who would have given origin to its physical incarnation cannot yet be named. Beings original, humans. Status, active under custodians Anunnaki rule.
Anunnaki.
Technological
Anunnaki.
progress. Inside the first ice walls, A1. The ancestral humans outside A3. Development focus. Within the ice walls are strictly dependent on their colonizer, but focus on attack and defense. Ancestral, spiritual, exploration, attack and defense. Conflicts. The Great War between giants humans and custodians Anunnaki. Then they also had other conflicts depending on each pre-reset phase. Exploration and conquest. The new humanity as a whole, as a species, has not left the first dome, but individuals have done so for different reasons.
They won't let us.
Being the group of humans that has been moved to the lands of Mars
Is
as
the
a colony
slaves?
living there. Lands of Mars. Coding R204.
Lands of Mars.
Beings of
It's not a
Mars
planet,
possibly
for fuck's sake.
extinct by wars and colonization by Anunnaki, today acts as a sort of large laboratory, even with a small human colony there. In area and Terra Cimmeria, there are large colonies of different species that usually from time to time come into conflict. The large human colony was moved because of these incessant wars. But anyway, from the ancestral database, it is confirmed that some humans might be living in deplorable conditions, forced to hard labor in mines and on the coast of Cimmeria. In Hellas Planitia, there are small groups of races that were considered extinct until the Cassiopeans added information by visits of their ships and scans. It is suspected the presence of Venusians that could have been trapped there. Beings originating, Martians. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind, humanoid. Status extinct to be confirmed. Technological progress, unknown but of early development. Developmental focus, spiritual. Conflicts, Anunnaki. Exploration and conquest. It is possible that some may have attempted or succeeded in escaping to free islands and then to Venus. Contact with humanity cannot be confirmed, but it is possible that some Martians may have wanted to escape during the custodial conquest through the Bird Passage. Lands of Custodians. Coding X001. Summary. Beings that colonize and manipulate other worlds. They have been doing it since the early development of their race. They are currently responsible for the chaos of most of the existing worlds under the Great Dome. Their conquests and colonization left many on the verge of extinction and made others disappear directly. It is known that they are currently seeking new horizons and have managed to penetrate the Great Dome to the beyond, in search of knowledge about technology and answers about the only world they could not enter, the celestial lands. Beings original, custodians. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind, Humanoid, bluish-gray color. Status, active. Technological progress, A6. Development focus, exploration, attack, defense. Conflicts with the vast majority, but their bloodiest wars have been against Anunnaki, defeated against the Venusians. Current conflicts in the Dome of Sheol. Exploration and conquest. Exploration and conquest of most of the 178 worlds. Now exploring the other domes beyond the Great Membrane Barrier and navigating the ether. Contact with humanity. Colonization of known lands. Conflict with the ancestors who escaped from the Great Tartary. Anunnaki's lands. Coding R013. Summary. Similar beings that colonize and manipulate other worlds. They have been doing so since the early development of their race. They are characterized by leaving large pyramids that they later use for different missions. In the known lands, they
Manipulating their
use to
environment.
generate floods and cause cycle resets. Beings originating Anunnaki. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoid, varied colors, predominantly yellowish-greenish skin. Status, active. Technological progress, A6. Development progress, exploration, attack, and defense. Conflicts, custodians and Orion Greys in the past.
Orion Grace.
Exploration and conquest. Exploration and conquest of other worlds. Also helping the custodians to overcome the Great Barrier Membrane and visitation of other dome. Pleiades. Coding R004. Summary. Beings that possibly escaped from Asgard and had first joined the first humans for some unknown reason. Perhaps the reason sleeps in the depths of what led to their present endangered status, have long since let go of humanity's hand and separated. Beings originating Pleiadians. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoids. Status, active, endangered. Technological progress, A2. Developmental focus, spiritual. Conflicts, Anunnaki. Exploration and conquest. Exploration of known lands and continents outside the second ice walls. Lands of Orion. Coding H005. Summary. They are beings that have no feelings for other races. They are almost robotic that follow certain orders. They can become very dangerous due to their great psychic and technological power. They are born explorers, and they gave a lot of information to the custodians about how they live in other worlds around them. Beings originating gray. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoid, small stature. Head of larger size compared to their body. Status, active. Technological progress, A5. Developmental focus, exploration, attack, and defense. Conflicts, Etemans, Aldebaran, Anunnaki, and custodians. Exploration and conquest, vast exploration of the surrounding worlds. Contact with humanity, active contact, abductions, manipulation, and genetic modification. Lands of Saturn. Coding R206.
I'm telling you, man, this
Spiritual
information is
strong
very,
beings
very
that were
important.
not conquered by the
Yeah.
Anunnaki due to their great skill and advancement, ethical. Beings originating Saturnians. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid Titanic. Status, active. Technological progress, A4. Developmental focus, spiritual and exploration. Conflicts, Anunnaki. Exploration and conquest around their circle environment plus lands of Vanth. Contact with humanity. It is said that some bodies of the Saturnians still rest in the known lands and were petrified during the war along with other giants. Active contact with ancestrals currently.
There you go.
Deborah. Coding
Huh?
R207. Summary. Beings that managed to defeat the Custodian Dominion and that helped other races not to become extinct. Aldebaran A is not used to live. All Taurines coexist in Aldebaran B. Beings original. Taurines. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoid Taurus. Status active. Technological progress A3. Development focus. Spiritual exploration. Attack and defense. Conflicts, custodians, internal warfare. Exploration and conquest. Exploration of other worlds. Contact with humanity. Active contact. There was also direct contact with humanity in past resets. Lands of Angels. Coding R208. Summary. Winged beings. Their white wings allow them to fly over areas at a great distance in danger of extinction. Beings originating. Angels. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid allied. Status active, endangered. Technological progress A2. Developmental focus. Spiritual and exploration. Conflicts, custodians, Anunnaki. Exploration and conquest. Exploration of other
Here,
worlds.
you're here.
Contact with
No
humanity.
lands.
Active contact. There was also contact with humans since after the first reset. Lands of Jupiter.
Mars is
Coding
here.
X003. Summary. Beings generally hostile to other races, dominated by the Anunnaki, even coexisting with the leaders. Beings originating. Jovian. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid, small stature, blue horns. Status active. Technological progress A4. Development focus. Exploration, attack, and defense. Conflicts, internal warfare. Exploration and conquest. Vast exploration of surrounding worlds. Contact with humanity. Manipulation of mankind as backward resets. Research and genetic manipulation. Pegasus. Coding R210. Beings originating. Lantians. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid, elongated skulls, metallic wings, created for ease of
Rothschild,
exploration
Rockefeller,
and
those
moving
bastards.
ages. Status cannot confirm existence today. Technological progress A2. Developmental focus. Exploration.
Murdering scumbags.
Conflicts.
Parasites.
Exploration
dealt
and
with.
conquest. Exploration of surrounding worlds. Contact with humanity. Active contact. Their leader, Calibier Nam, agreed to assist humanity in exchange for Cassiopean technology. Cassiopeia. Code R032. Summary. Beings of great technological advance and benevolent with the human being that have helped and still help today the ancestral humans to the exploration and the human liberation of their lands of origin. They are able to penetrate domes with great facility. Original. Beings, Cassiopeans. Morphology, relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid, bluish color, larger head size relative to their bodies. Very light yellow and green eyes. Status, active. Technological progress, A5. Development focus, spiritual exploration, attack and defense. Conflicts, custodians, Anunnaki, Greys, Edamans, Jovians. Exploration and conquest. Vast exploration reached the shores of the ancestral lands, even also entered the known lands. Contact with humanity. Active contact. Lands of Hercules. Coding C412. Summary. Beings that fought very bravely before the unpleasant custodial visit. Being at a young age they could not cope. Today, we can confirm that they have not become extinct, but they surely went back several steps in their development. According to versions of other beings, have seen them in small colonies in Algena, near World, but they did not confirm it. Beings originating her morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoid amphibians, different colors, and very striking. Status A1. Developmental focus. Attack and defense beings in phase 1. Conflicts, custodians. Exploration and conquest, null.
Custodians
Contact
are the
with
most
humanity.
evil beings there
Recent
is.
contact.
And
These
Anunnaki.
beings live in tunnels that help them avoid the harsh weather outside and safeguard themselves from any enemy visit. Andromeda. Code C413. Lands M31 and NGC. Summary. Beings of great spiritual advancement. They have helped humans to liberate themselves spiritually in the past prior to the reset. Their great masters have taught the inner path to several important humans who lived in the known lands and behind the second wall. It is believed that JB, who wanted to liberate humanity in Lemuria, had contact with Andromedans. Beings originating Andromedans. Morphology in relation to that known to humanity. Humanoids. Status active. Technological progress A4. Developmental focus. Spiritual and exploration. Conflicts, custodians, Anunnaki, Jovians, Greys, Edamans. Exploration and conquest. Vast exploration carrying their spiritual contact with humanity. Active contact. Arcturus and Veth. Arcturus. Coding C414. Summary. Similar to Andromedans, beings with great spiritual strength. Beings originating Arcturians. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid. Status active. Technological progress A3. Developmental focus. Spiritual and exploration. Conflicts, Anunnaki, Edamans. Exploration and conquest. Exploration of other worlds have saved the lives of the original Homun beings from total annihilation. Contact with humanity. Active contact. Veth. Coding C415. Summary. Life form not yet developed, but there coexist Arcturians and Andromedans in their large centers, as for example, the most important one named Lab Center. There are also other forms of life that we cannot confirm. Its name Vanth comes from a great Arcturian leader, the most important. Beings
I know one thing. That I need to get the fuck out of here.
Beta Lyric. Coding
From this force.
C416. Summary. According to the beings of Cassiopeia, the beings living here
I
would
need
be
to
very similar to human beings
do
at
something
a
about
very
it.
early age.
I have to
And
grow.
if humanity
Evolve.
had been born naturally, and not by
Somehow.
the five masters to safeguard the celestial lands. The vessel
Just gaining
SCB-021
knowledge.
approached their shores from the southern side. They were surprised to see that they were very similar physically. In fact, them bridging the distance from the large vessel we were carrying, and then seeing our different eye color, they thought they were Beta Lyrian beings from a different timeline. They have not received Cassiopeans the same as humans. The treatment with them was different for some strange reason that we do not know. Beings originating Bavilarians. Morphology relative to that known to mankind. Humanoid, similar in features, but they all have yellow eyes. Status, active. Technological progress, A1. Development focus, attack and defense. Conflicts, custodians. Exploration and conquest. No major explorations other than within their lands. Contact with humanity. First time with the ship SCP-021. Sagitta. Coding C417. Summary. Beings of very short stature, hostile to other races, colonized long ago by the custodians. The ship SCP-009 visited their coasts, which did not have any port, and they were not welcome. Even the Cassiopeans interceded, but it was even worse. They were asked in a very aggressive way to leave their lands to avoid conflicts. Beings originating Sagittans. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Insectoids of very short stature, opaque gray skins, huge eyes.
Insectoid.
Status, active. Technological progress,
It's all true, man.
A2. Development
It's all
focus,
true.
attack and defense. Conflicts, unknown. Exploration and conquest, unknown. Contact with humanity. First time with the ship SCP-009, but it was not well received. Shem. Coding C418. Summary. Small land where a colony of early-stage developmental beings live. Its lands were visited by SCP-017, but there was no great interaction. No development of large structures. Beings originating Shamites. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Insectoid, different skin colors. Status, active. Technological progress, A1. Developmental focus, attack and defense. Exploration and conquest, unknown. Contact with humanity, first recent visit. Lands of Vega. Coding C419. Summary. Beings who were colonized long ago by the Anunnaki and follow a pyramidal hierarchical line. Their leader lives in the core of the great island that bears his name. At first, the idea of taking a ship to their lands was discussed, but then the plan was aborted, as it was confirmed by flights and scans in the area that the Vega leader was meeting with Anunnaki leaders. Beings originally vegans. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind, humanoid. Status, active. Technological progress, A4. Development focus, exploration, attack and defense. Conflicts, custodians. Exploration and conquest. Exploration of other worlds. Conquest of SADALMELIK, which they later abandoned by force of natives from there. Contact with humanity, past contact. SADALMELIK. Coding N820. Summary. Beings that were colonized by the vegans, who did not possess great technology, but were aided by the Anunnaki. In time, they were able to rebel and gain freedom in their lands. The ship SCP-028 was sent to their lands, but curiously they found well-developed structures but a totally dead city. Not only were they not received there, but they tried to enter the structures scattered throughout a great city without being able to find a single one. They traveled through other parts of the lands without success. Their whereabouts or existence are unknown. Beings originating Melix. relation to that known to mankind. Insectoid. Status. Their existence could not be confirmed to date. Technological progress. A2. Developmental focus. Attack and defense. Conflicts. Vegans. Anunnaki. Exploration and conquest. Unknown. Contact with humanity. None. SADALTAGER. Coding. N821. Summary. Beings that live scattered in the 7 different islands. They do not have great relationship among them, and have reached the critical point of almost disappearance due to internal wars, colonized and forgotten by the custodians long ago. Beings originating, taggers. Morphology in relation to the one known to mankind, insectoids. Status, active. Technological progress, A2. Developmental focus, attack and defense. Conflicts, custodians, internal warfare. Exploration and conquest, unknown. Contact with humanity, none. Sirio, death. Coding, C425. Summary. Very white beings with long hair. They appeared several times before humanity during several post-reset. Due to their great custodial influence, we cannot confirm their benevolence. Beings originating, Sirius. Morphology in relation to the one known by humanity. Humanoids, very light-colored skin and very long white hair. Status, active. Technological progress, A3. Developmental focus, exploration, attack, and defense. Conflicts, Anunnaki, Sirius B. Exploration and conquest, exploration of other worlds. They are spiritual beings, although their stance on other worlds is not very clear. They exterminated their Sirius B brethren in the past. Contact with humanity. Past contact, active contact cannot be confirmed, possibly on Mars. Sirio B. Coding, N828. Summary. Beings that were annihilated by their brothers from Sirius A, these lands, after several hours of debate between Cassiopeans and humans to investigate them. It was concluded to send the vessel SCP-014, which we have lost contact.
0110.
Rescue flights were sent and scans were made, but we have not been able to find them so far. The last report sent was after reaching their shores and reporting that there were no beings there. Beings originating, Sirius. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoids. Status, extinct. Contact with humanity. Past contact, and it cannot be confirmed that beings live there today because of the contact in the recent visit. Alpha Cygna. Coding, N829. Summary. Beings with great psychic power, brothers of NML Cygna. The vessel SCP-012 was sent, which was successfully able to penetrate their circle environment. Curiously, they could not find any being, until by means of the scanners, they discovered beings in 2 small islands of the north. There they were well received, and the growth and development of their species was noticed, since the structures were advanced. Their technology was not yet very advanced, but the contact was fruitful with a view to the future. Beings originating Alpha. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind, humanoid. Status, active. Technological progress, A2. Developmental focus, attack and defense. Conflicts, unknown. Exploration and conquest, unknown. Contact with humanity, recent. NML Cygna. Coding, N830. Alpha Cygna, beings with great psychic power. The same vessel SCP-012 also managed to enter their lands. They found beings that received them with fear. Then they were able to establish contact with the Cassiopeans that, with their technology, adapted the language. And when explaining to them that they came from the lands of their brothers, Alpha Cygna, their treatment was modified to cordiality. Beings originating, Nemals. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoid. Status active. Technological progress. A2.
Pičkavo, mater.
Developmental focus. Attack and defense. Conflicts unknown.
Making you sick
Exploration and conquest unknown.
and making you pain.
Contact with humanity recent. Cyclops. Coding N833. Summary. Giant beings with
For being
great
alive.
physical power,
For being alive.
little technology, and spiritual development.
Mater.
Beings originating. Cyclops.
Of course I'm angry, furious.
Morphology in relation to that known to mankind.
Pain. All the time.
Only
Pain.
one eye in the front. Height between 2.50 and 3 meters tall. Status active. Technological progress. A2.
Suffering.
Development focus. Attack. Conflicts unknown. Exploration and conquest unknown. Contact with humanity. Past contact. FAWARIS. Coding N834. Summary. Reptilian snake-like beings with greenish-yellow scaly skin. Beings originating. Fawares. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Reptilians. Status active. Technological progress. A2. Development focus. Attack. Conflicts unknown.
Barata.
Exploration and
Reptilian.
conquest unknown. Contact with humanity none. Hydor. Coding N838. Summary. Psychic beings with technological breakthrough in weapons of destruction. Beings originating. Hydorians. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Reptilians. Status active. Technological progress. A3. Development focus. Attack. Conflicts. They have had conflicts with the Lacertians and Custodians. Exploration and conquest. They have explored other worlds. Contact with humanity. Past contact. Yamison. Coding N845. Summary. Beings that had great spiritual potential extinguished in war during custodial attack. Beings originating. Damascenites. Morphology in relation to that known to mankind. Humanoids. Status extinct. Technological progress. Developmental focus. Spiritual. Conflicts. Custodians. Per se. Coding N846. Summary. Giant beings that by their strange skin seem to have been petrified. They had great conflicts with the Anunnaki and custodians in the past. Today they are a free circle environment. Beings originating. Perseanites. Morphology in relation to the one known to mankind. Humanoid golem. Status active. Technological progress.
Big
A3.
time. Fucking lying scumbags. I have to put an end to this stream. If there's an interest, you can follow me later. And the next, I have to end it. I have to eat, and so on. You can try to keep up with it. You know my name, but this is interesting. I will try to continue with as much as could stay in Terra Infinite information. That's the free world and freedom for the humanity. If you're interested, hop on in. Just watch my videos.